Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke, but I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
I'm somewhat dissociated doing this because there is a catch-22 by giving these personalities attention, but I feel if I don't, I can't spare you grief and have your joy be incited sooner. I watched, I'm bringing my friend Jersey on for tomorrow's episode soon, but I watched in preparation for talking to her a 2.5-hour podcast, longest podcast I've ever watched, with Dr. Romney and Kyle Kittleson from Med Circle. It was incredible on sociopathy versus psychopathy, and sometimes I say sociopathy versus psychopathy, but I'm used to socio and psychopathy. Hope I said that right. And I can remember years ago looking into it and understanding that my narcissistic abuse had crossed over into the antisocial arena. Although I think, and I'm not sure, if you have narcissistic personality disorder and you're not throwing it around carelessly, I would venture to say it's somewhat antisocial also. But narcissistic personality disorder is the NPD is the diagnosis, and then from there, sociopathy and psychopathy are used to describe different types of behaviors. As I said, I remember years ago, I thought the distinction was a psychopath can kill or has killed, and that's very different today than many years ago from listening to the two of them speak, Romney. It's more like they're soul murderers. It doesn't have to manifest in true death. And one of the best analogies she made was that the criminal mentality is actually more rehabable, if it's at all rehabable, than your white collar type of psychopathy. I'm going to say that word every time I say it differently. I apologize. It's just be inside this head. So, yeah. So I'm going to talk more about that with Pam, my friend, who's coming on, because it would be normally something we'd discuss. So I'm going to share a letter that was written to me by one of my siblings with her because she is my friend. No offense to Brian. And then we'll talk more about the interview aspects of it that I want to share.
I'm just here to push buttons, Joanne.
Well, this is hard. This
literal buttons, like all the buttons for the cameras.
I got you. This is just this is very hard. This is the hardest time I've had talking. And I think it's because I don't want to hurt my kids.
Right.
I don't want to hurt myself. And I also have this bizarre loyalty to those who have caused me injury.
Yeah. Then it's important to be able to unpack this kind of stuff with somebody who, quote unquote, understands it. I mean, I've said to you multiple times, I've never been through it, so I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, and so few, thank you for that, because so few therapists get it. And I just got damn lucky.
Yeah.
After, and you know, I thought, many of you may have watched my podcast with Rob Sanducci. I thought Rob was king, man, but he never really addressed what had happened to me with me. And that was all my cognitive stuff was years ago. And then after I had my dissociative incident after my mom passed, Rob basically thought I had gone to a place I hadn't gone. And I got a referral to this woman I talk to now in New York City. While I was recovering from all that, we spoke weekly. Now we're on every other week, and we're at the point where we may stop because she caught me up so quickly with dissociation. It's really the word, and this word matters to those of us who have been abused, but our abusers are dissociated, and that's where the generations come in. Even when I was listening to Dr. Ramadi was talking about how important the father-son dynamic is because of male genetics and psychopathy and sociopathy, and I'm thinking it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. And not that she said anything wrong, she didn't, but especially when it comes to the generations that had the World War II, World War I generations, still impacting, that PSD is still impacting. It impacts, I think something happening abuse-wise affects 7 generations, and there's some. I think I talked about it with Melanie, so I won't get into it here. So, in fact, that's a great. The owner of Conversion Works always wants me to refer back, and I never can. But by this time, the tapings I did with Melanie about the generations, and then we did the quantum leap to why estrangement's on the rise.
Yeah, those will be out by now.
Yeah, so that plays into all this because I am estranged from my siblings and my ex-husband's family, and I didn't do it, but I did it because it had to be done, but I also set this foundation for my kids, and I told you before, we're not estranged, but it's a lot, you can imagine. I wanted to read something else. Reading is saving my ass because it keeps my brain really is fighting. Every word is being fought by my brain to share it. I hope it translates better than it's feeling like it is. But the covert abuse I want to drive home, because as much as you're going to hear that I went through with my siblings, my marriage was so cruel. And so when there is no abuse, physical abuse, when there is no sexual abuse, although I could argue sexual abuse because I was involved with somebody who had an antisocial personality disorder. So I'm not going to do that right now, but use your imagination. It was not a loving sexual relationship ever. So what is that? Yeah, that's a can of worms. That's what that is. But covert narcissists are notorious for playing games that fly under the radar in order for the abuse to go unnoticed. Example, a covert narcissist will chronically greet everyone in a room but intentionally skip right over the targeted survivor. This form of devaluation is hurtful and worsened by the fact that most won't notice this form of abuse. The survivor may even question their own assessment of the situation. Make no mistake about it, the toxic person knows precisely the games they are playing and knows that the survivor will sound petty if he or she complains. I can remember that my ex was a nicer guy when he was around certain people, like his mother. And I used to point it out and laugh about it. That was my way of handling it. So I'd point it out, even though it was true, but I didn't get the deeper rationale. And I've since nicknamed my mother-in-law Smurf. after watching Animal Kingdom. Oh, now I'm red in the face. This is subtle cruelty of covert narcissistic abuse. Unlike overt narcissists who may openly rage, insult, or belittle, the covert narcissist works in shadows, ensuring their actions are small enough to escape detection, yet sharp enough to cut deeply. These little acts of exclusion, dismissal, or indifference may seem insignificant to outsiders, but to the survivor, they carry immense weight because they happen repeatedly and deliberately. And I would react. I was dead in the water because I would react. I didn't get that lesson until the next relationship I had with the roommate, where I caught myself responding and having the same fucking effect by responding because the personality was the same. What makes this form of abuse especially damaging is the way it forces the survivor into self-doubt. When they notice the behavior and consider speaking up, they already anticipate the response. You're overreacting, you're being dramatic, that's ridiculous, I just didn't see you. The covert narcissist thrives on this plausible deniability, knowing full well that their victim will look irrational for pointing it out. My ex used to say to me all the time, "What do you mean?" I'd say, "What do you mean? What do I mean?" I didn't know. He didn't like my tone. Mine were very subtle, but deliberate. And I have argued the consciousness and unconsciousness with this type of abuse. And again, I think it's tied to how far gone they are. Over time, this erodes the survivor's confidence and makes them hesitant to trust their own perception of reality. This may minimize their pain, dismiss their feelings, or even internalize the idea that they are overly sensitive. This is part of the covert narcissist strategy to silence the survivor without ever having to raise their voice. That's also an interesting one with me because I used to share things, but I would say they were equal, where women would not see the problem in it, and when occasionally people would absolutely see the problem in it. After I got separated, I definitely had a handful of people sing like canaries. I also had people sing like canaries before I got married in the best way they knew how to make me get it, and I didn't. These small acts of rejection or exclusion are not random. They are calculated. The covert narcissist knows exactly what they're doing, and they enjoy the power it gives them. The unspoken message is clear. I see you. I know you see me ignoring you, and I want you to feel invisible. This is psychological warfare disguised as social interaction. I always could really piss them off with my humor because it was so spot on. So I was laughing at them, but it was true. But again, wasn't hitting home with me. The key to breaking free from this manipulation is recognizing it for what it is, abuse. If something consistently makes you feel devalued or dismissed, it doesn't matter how subtle it looks to others. Your feelings are valid, your perception is real, and you don't need anyone else's approval to trust your experience. When you learn to name these behaviors, you strip them of their power. You stop second-guessing yourself and start setting boundaries, because once you realize the covert narcissist is playing games, you can refuse to play along. Yeah, but then the real problems start. The abuse gets worse when you put those boundaries up, and you know, especially with people who have graduated to sociopathy or psychopathy. So it's not as easy as it sounds, and I just invite you to be open to the layers and just work on self. I am not embarrassed to tell you it took me 10 years to process CPTSD. I'm not embarrassed to tell you that I still step back into it. I am not embarrassed to tell you that I think these kinds of relationships are a big part of the human experience. And folks still able to look at themselves and figure out what happened to them detrimentally just brings the light in. I wouldn't change it, but it's hard. It's hard. And I don't want to discuss it and be discussing it a year from now. I want it to be in my rear view and that's going to happen with the nature of, this podcast is my art. It's getting it out. The book is my art, and then I can move on to something else. I started this weekend when I was thinking about the letter that I'm going to read to you soon with Pam, is that, wow, I don't want to think about 6 months from now anymore. I want to think about 5 years from now, because I know how much growth is going to come out of that. And I know that this work I'm doing right now is going to impact people and put them on the path and scrunch that learning curve. I don't want anyone to struggle as long. We don't have to. There's too many advances in psychology, but they're just not. They're not. It does have to be screened from the rafters. It does. All right, so this is number 2. We'll end, and we'll pick up Pammy.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.